Today on Locked On Red Wings, it's time for a big old group event session.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. I'm a podcast producer for the Daily JAWWJ News Radio podcast. I did my episode on Tuesday. The Tailored Police Department is leasing a robotic dog, Scotty. It's actually really fascinating how those things work. And despite its name, it actually has nothing to do with canine units. So go ahead and give that a listen. Go over to www.newsradio.com, plug in my work, fill in times. We don't have to vent as long. And Scotty's the host over at Locked On Tigers, as well as a freelance journalist for the Detroit News. And Tigers had a pretty phenomenal rookie performance there in spring training to win 1-0.
Yeah, if that was maybe the most miraculous inning I've ever seen. Not to be too dramatic, but yeah, the best pitching prospect in the Tigers organization, one of the 2 or 3 best pitching prospects in baseball, is a member of the Tigers organization. And he made not his regular season major league debut. Obviously, it's still spring training, but he pitched on a big league, mound and wearing the Old English D for the first time, and hit 102 miles an hour, and was consistently throwing 101. It was pretty wild. So a lot of fun. We talked about that on today's episode of Over at Tigers. So
go ahead and hop over to that once you're done listening to us over here at Locked On Red Wings.
Much different vibe to that show than this one, I'm going to be honest.
Absolutely. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Listen, guys, I know normally we have a structure for these post-game recaps. One, it just helps us kind of have stay focused on the events of the game, really. But in a game like that, after an episode we had yesterday, trying to stay optimistic for how this season could still play out, I'll be honest, I don't have any words of consolation for you guys. I don't have any silver linings for you guys. That was an unmitigated disaster by the Detroit Red Wings. And it's their 6th loss in a row, which completely wipes away the 6-game win streak that gave them that phenomenal padding. They once again hand over the wild card spot to the New York Islanders on the loss. It's their 6th game in a row, giving up 4+ goals in a game. They gave up 4 in this one. Before the first period was even up, I think 14 minutes in, they had 7 against them by the end of the 40 minutes. Everything in this game was atrocious for a team that seems to know what's at stake here. And I don't, unfortunately, and I'm sure we will analyze it to the best of our abilities, but I don't have any words for you guys. I don't have anything to tell you that's going to make you feel better. So this episode, Scotty, and for the people, is going to be mostly just event session. We're all upset. There's no analyzing what they could have done differently, because what they could have done differently is just not stepped onto the ice tonight. They were better off not showing up.
Yeah, we talk about we've made this point a few times. Thankfully, a lot less in frequency lately, but there are some games where it goes so well that you don't have anything to really talk about, because it's okay, well, this is never, we're not going to win 8-1 ever again. And then there's games on the opposite side of the spectrum that are obviously this, and everything goes so poorly that there's really not a ton to analyze. Obviously, I'm sure we'll talk more big picture kind of season outlook stuff at some point, just because that's immediately kind of where everyone's brain goes to. But there's not a ton as far as analysis goes to break down with the X's and O's of this specific hockey game, because it was just all a disaster. If you're wondering, oh, well, was the goaltending good in this game? No. If you're wondering, oh, well, was the defense, good, and a different area of the team let them down? No.
No.
If you're wondering, was there a lot of offensive pressure at least? Was this, one of those games where the defense and the goaltending maybe was lackluster, but it was a high scoring back and forth game? No, that was awful too. Like every single there was no forecheck, there was no zone denial, there's no anything. There's no offensive creativity. There's no offensive, really just plays period being ran because we don't even really have possession that long in the offensive zone ever. There's no real high danger scoring chances. Our goalie got pulled in the first period. Nothing. There was nothing. Joe Veleno got hit in the head. I haven't gotten an update on him. As if it couldn't get any worse. Just really anything you can really point to and be like, oh, well, how did it go? Poorly is the answer. And that's, we're 6 minutes in and there's the entire analysis of the game.
I mean, and that's the thing, like we even discussed not recording because we were like, what is there to break down in a game this poorly, in a stretch where they played this poorly? We've touched on and covered every single aspect of what they're doing wrong in the last 5 games prior to this. And every single consecutive game, well, I don't want to be hyperbolic. I thought they played a pretty good game overall against the Vegas Golden Knights, but just they got poor goaltending out of James Reimer. It's just, there's nothing new to say about how bad this team is doing. And I've talked to you, Scott. I called you on the way to my hockey game, which, by the way, I'm sorry. I really wanted to come on here and scream into the mic. I was so angry. But I have absolutely drained after my own hockey game that I just don't have the energy to do it anymore. So this is what it's going to be. This is going to be an episode where we just vent, and you guys can vent along in the comments. I mean, heck, whether or not we did it this way or not, I know you guys are. And you're going to vent, and I can
very deserved after.
I can't blame them.
Yeah.
I can't blame them.
Yeah.
This season's on the line, right? I mean, obviously it's not over yet. You're still tied in points for the second wild card spot, but every consecutive loss, even with being in the race by standings, it slips away from you more and more. And every single win becomes more and more imperative for them to get, and they just cannot seem to do it. And I cannot pinpoint one single aspect of this team and say, this is why we're losing. It's a whole team effort, and it's on coaching too. And part of me wonders, like, Dylan Larkin, right, is hurt, and that's a huge blow. He is the heartbeat of this hockey team. He is the heart and soul of this hockey team. But losing Dylan Larkin in no way, shape, or form makes this team as bad as they are playing, right? One of the strongest things that this team has going for it that we have been pounding into the dirt is depth, right? And good special teams. Which I guess if you want to say anything that showed up, they went 1 for 4 on the power play and 4 for 4 on the penalty kill. Oh boy, that means all 7 goals against were even strength. Fantastic.
But I mean, it's fair to point out. I mean, I guess, I said that everything went poorly. I guess technically speaking, not everything went terribly. So
yeah. Right. That'll raise my mood. It's like when you texted me after Raymond scored. You're like, yeah, we scored.
That was super sarcastic.
Oh,
but
dude. Yeah. Dude, Allison was I was sitting here at the computer just watching on my second monitor, and Allison walks in and Raymond scores. And I scream at the top of my lungs as sarcastic as possible. Whoa! I was like, I was so emotionally invested in this game because you and I have gone to bat for this team. Not that matters, right? Nothing we say matters to the team. But where a lot of people have been dooming online after the first loss, after the second loss, after the third loss, you and I have come on here and tried our best to be voices of reason. And I'm at my wit's end, Scotty. I am at my wit's end at what to say about this hockey team that needs to change because it's a whole team effort, right? And
well, I think that's a good transition. We should go to a break. I think there's a conversation there just in terms of not only what we saw in this hockey game, obviously, but in the entire losing streak that, maybe can be addressed or should be changed type of thing.
And that's it, right? Like, obviously in my head, I know there are 3 big things fundamentally that have got to change if this team wants to start winning hockey games. And, oh, hey, here's a tip. It's going to be going back to doing what gave you success.
Watch this. 3 things. Okay. Ready? Good goaltending, good defense, score goals. Hard-hitting stuff right there, baby.
Thanks for tuning in to Lockdown Red Wings. Yeah, we'll return in segment 2, and yeah, we will try to focus in a little bit more. I know this is mostly going to be event session, but we can't just talk in circles we definitely could talk in circles for 30 minutes straight, but we're going to try and give you actual something of substance here in this episode. So stay tuned to segment 2 of Lockdown Red Wings. Got to talk to you guys today about Sleeper. Oh, this read is going to sting with the way it opens up. The season's almost over, guys. And regardless of where the Red Wings are at in the current standings, that's the part that stings. It was nice when they were way up there, but it stings as they slip. I want to remind you guys that you could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Lockdown NHL Network. Sleeper is the number one choice for daily fantasy sports and especially daily fantasy hockey. Because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. All you got to do is pick whether or not studs like McDavid, Sidney Crosby, Nathan McKinnon will record more or less than Sleeper projections for things like goals, assists. If you pick a goalie, saves, plus, minus, and more in a given game. To win 100 times bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8-player stats. You heard me, Red Wings fans. You can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you can start winning big. Use promo code LOCKDOWNNHL. You'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKDOWNNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. Also got to talk to you guys today about eBay Motors. Let's rev up the energy for this one. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, Scotty, you're burning what?
Rubber, not cash.
That's right. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win, something the Red Wings are unfamiliar with. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Segment 2, Lockdown Red Wings podcast. Scotty, it's so funny, right? Like we spent segment 1 going, I don't know what to tell you guys. I don't know what happened. What's going wrong? So now in segment 2, we're going to try and tell you what happened and what's going wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, first and foremost, the one big thing that stands out that you're not getting that led to so much of your success when they were winning in January and February is goaltending, right? Alex Lyon, for better and for worse, was the rock of this team. He was making incredible saves. At one point, he was a top 10 goaltender in the league, top 5 goaltender in the league at save percentage. That's how good Alex Lyon was. He was making phenomenal saves. And at one point, you and I had begun to believe this is legit. This isn't just him playing hot. This isn't last season with the Florida Panthers. But now it seems either the workload's gotten to him or he is just a streaky goaltender who's hit a cold streak. Last few games, he's been less than stellar, and this was his worst performance yet. He was not tracking pucks whatsoever. And obviously, here, the caveat is not helped at all by the team in front of him playing horrid defense, not forechecking. But that doesn't excuse his level of play either. He tripped and fell over nothing twice. One of those goals got overturned on offsides, the second of which did not. And of course, the Bowen Byram goal, the first one, he gave up a rebound that came to the top of the circle. He had plenty of time to lateral and get over, but he couldn't get there in time. I'm very grateful for Alex Lyon for putting the Red Wings in a position to succeed. But right now, he's sliding. And when the team behind him, or the team, doesn't have confidence, the team in front of him very clearly doesn't have confidence either. That's the big difference between he and Husso, right? When Husso or Reimer were in net, the team played like they had a goalie they didn't trust in net. When Lyon was in net, they did, but now that's slipping away.
Yeah, well, honestly, I think that this is a real like chicken or the egg type of conversation. To be honest, I think the defense has been atrocious during this losing streak, and I don't know, what's correlation, what's causation. I don't know which one's which, right? Again, like chicken or the egg. I don't know if the defense is struggling because they don't trust their goalie, or if the goalie is struggling because the defense is playing horrendously. Like I don't. Again, like I don't know which domino fell first. Yeah,
They fell at the same time. It's not
yeah,
it's not a chicken or an egg
what I
situation,
think.
I would
Yeah,
argue. It's both things happen to crash and collapse at the same time. And so it's like they're not mutually exclusive, right? Goaltending
right.
didn't fall apart because defense, and like let's be honest, he was bailing them out, right? So you could, I guess, to your credit, you could argue the defense kind of collapsed in front of him beforehand, and he finally just cracked under the pressure. But these last few games, he hasn't been able to give them that bailout attempt.
Yeah, right.
It,
Yeah,
it,
no, and that's exactly right. I think, um, it was obviously Lion went on a really, really nice run, but even, we gave props to this defense in January and at points in February where we talked about, that they maybe they allow a lot of shots, but they were pushing everything to the outside, and they weren't giving up too many high danger opportunities, and that's just completely gone out the window. It's Swiss cheese esque, right? I mean, it's genuinely just, and I'm not even talking about like in front of the net, right? In high danger, where you can just like post up, right in on top of the goalie sometimes, but where the crease is just wide open. I mean, like zone entry as well is something we've obviously talked about a lot, and it's just constant. I mean, again, you can just waltz in to the wing zone pretty easily as an opponent lately, and I think all of those things, goaltending, obviously defense, but all of those things are just really fueling each other, and now you have a giant forest fire.
yeah, and obviously we're talking primarily about Lyon because he was the one who helped usher so much success in. But the reason so much has been asked of him is because they haven't gotten reliable goaltending out of James Reimer behind him,
Yeah,
or
Lyon was
or
supposed to be the third string, like maybe doesn't play too often goalie going into the season.
and Ville Husso has played one game since December, in which he
Right.
immediately got injured. And again, you don't blame a goalie for getting injured, but that's not without merit, right? Like if Husso's healthy, you at least have a guy more reliable than Reimer as a backup. They put Reimer in, and it was just like the Vegas game. He was just giving up goals on shots. Like they weren't high danger shots. They weren't screened shots. They were just shots. He should have saved. And so without goalies, I mean, that's reason number one. And then reason number two, right? Another issue that has persisted throughout the season, the defensive structure of this team. It's so passive. And when the team was winning, even though like we saw it, right? When the team's winning, we don't want to call out and ruin the mood. But everyone on social media, and I defended it, right? The team was succeeding. So I was like, they're doing something right. So clearly it's working. But it's very passive defensive system that gives up a high volume of shots. And I was bragging about how they cut down on the high danger opportunities. That was not the case in this game. Everything was high danger. I
Yeah.
swear to God.
It hasn't been the entire losing streak. It hasn't. Yeah.
Yeah. But the one thing that was working for them is keeping the quality shots outside isn't happening. So now you have a passive defensive structure that focuses on blocking, taking up passing lanes, and waiting for the other team to make a mistake. Well, now you're not successfully interrupting those passes. So it's just complete offensive zone or defensive zone domination, leaving your line completely exhausted by the time they get out of the zone. And of course, the forwards aren't helping with that either. And that's because you have a bunch of forwards on this team who historically don't play defense, right? And now this has been an absolute boon for the Red Wings. That's not lost on me. The offensive upside of these forwards, your Patrick Kanes, your Alex DeBrincats, your David Perrons, your Daniel Sprongs, your Robbie Fabries, the offensive upside of those players has carried the Red Wings to victories through just pure goal scoring. But when the scoring is struggling, like it is right now, it just exacerbates the lack of defensive play they have and the lack of effort it seems they make in this defensive zones, in this defensive structure. So, I mean, the amount of times they lose these board battles or barely even engage in board battles, they just lose the race outright. It just, when you have bad goaltending, it just makes it all worse, you know?
And, I think now, if there were ever a time to have a call up or make some sort of shake up in the blue line specifically, I feel like now is kind of the slam dunk opportunity to do so. I think that this is obviously, we don't know, as far as I know, we don't know the severity of the Edvinsson injury. So if that's a short-term thing, then obviously he's the slam dunk candidate, and that's just the end of the conversation. But even, I mean, this is an organization that has prided itself on its defensive prospect depth, and there are really good defensive prospects in Grand Rapids right now. And I just, not that I don't want to be the guy that just like pounds his fist on the table and goes like, we're losing, like you have to change something right now, right? Like you can't be like too reactionary. But this feels like the time, if there was ever, to do something like that. Petrie and Sherrod were out for the first 3 goals against in this hockey game.
And got burned on each of them.
Right. Absolutely torched on each of them. And like, I just, again, we've been talking about the defense this whole segment. I just don't know how you can justify continuously, you are breaking down, you're looking in the mirror and you're like, what do we need to do to end the skid and get back, on the horse and whatnot. I don't know how the blue line and the defensive structure or personnel, et cetera, even the lineup card, just like switch something up maybe. Like I don't know how we can just keep rolling out the same blue line every single night based on how the defense is played. And if that means, again, a call up of somebody, or if that just means shaking up the lineup card, either way, I find it really hard to believe that, after this losing streak, that we're just looking around going, yep, like we're just going to keep Sider Wallman 1, Sherratt Petrie 2, and Ghost Mata 3, and just, it'll work again eventually because it worked before. That's just like not how hockey works.
Well, like even deeper than, God, there's so much to talk. It's such a dense topic, that defensive core. But like, and maybe this is a topic for tomorrow's episode in particular, because obviously Simon Edvinsson would be number 1 if he weren't hurt right now. We don't know the severity of it. He could just be day to day, but he blocked a shot, missed the remainder of a game, and then missed the following game on Tuesday with Grand Rapids. But Albert Johansson's there too, and he's been a defensive stalwart for the Grand Rapids Griffins. And obviously, I understand the AHL is a different beast, but there was conversations last year that if Albert hadn't gotten hurt, he would have been a call-up for the Detroit Red Wings. So, like, what's the difference now? Well, the difference is you have 7 defensemen already, and if you want to make space for one, you have to waive somebody. And I'm sorry, I'm at a point now where if Justin Holl is not going to play, I don't care if you're eating the 3. This might be the worst take in the world. Like, maybe it doesn't work, but waive him. Eat the $3 million, pay him $3 million to play in Grand Rapids. Because if he's not going to play, then why is he on the roster? Waive him, because no one's taking that contract off of waivers. Call up Simon Edvinsson when he's healthy, or Albert Johansson now, and then bump Jeff Petrie down. Now, because like Sherratt got burned. It was a kind of unfortunate pick. The puck got picked up off the boards, and he just doesn't have the speed to not. Regardless, he lost the race, and it was a breakaway, and they scored. On the other one, Petrie faded over onto the other side and left, and on the forwards too for not picking up the late guy coming in. But everyone came to one side, so it's just like time and time again. And this defensive core is overly exposed, and we talk a lot about Seider and Wallman's. What's the word I'm looking for? Deployments. But Sherratt and Petrie are given too much too. They are not of the caliber that they are playing. They would be a stellar third pair. But you can't give them the third pair deployments because you don't have a second pair. So they're forced to play second pair. So they're forced into the deployments that they can't handle. And then And the reason why that is because Oli Mata and Shane Gostisbehere, and I love Oli Mata. He is exactly who he is. He is a defensive defenseman who's going to play well in sheltered minutes, and he does. But you have got to play Gostisbehere and Mata in the most sheltered role possible against the worst opponents in primarily offensive zone deployments to not expose them because they can't handle third pair, like standard third pair deployments. Everyone on this defensive core is overburdened. And, I once believed when the team was succeeding, you didn't want to mess with the chemistry in the locker room. So even though the defensive structure was flawed, it was working. Don't mess with it. Don't call up Simon Edvinsson because you don't want to risk rookie mistakes when points matter. But at what point is Simon Edvinsson's rookie mistakes or Albert Johansson's rookie mistakes, again, Simon Edvinsson being healthy is a big caveat, worse than the veteran mistakes we are seeing from guys who have been in the league for 10 plus years?
To me, it's just like your biggest. I know we have to get to a break, by the way. We just never took a break. One of the biggest reasons as to why you did not supposedly buy at the deadline was because you were just comfortable with the reinforcements you had internally.
The depth.
Right. It makes no sense to me to sit on your hands on the deadline, say that if you do need, different players or a different look, you're going to do it internally, and then and again, the deadline just happened, right? Like we might get a thing tomorrow that they're going to do something like that. Like, I don't know, but it now seems like the time is my point. It's not it should have been 2 weeks ago, whatever. They were winning 2 weeks ago. I'm saying now feels like the time to do it.
Right. And, you moved Klim Kostin out because he wanted an opportunity to play. I understand Justin Holl has a 10-team no-move clause. I understand that he is on definitely now a bloated contract for how well he has been playing or how unwell he has been playing. But you're telling me there is not a rebuilding team in the NHL who is open to having continuity on their blue line for the next 2 years, that you can give them Justin Holl and a 6th-round draft pick at 50% retained to get him off your roster. Like, that's the other thing too, right? Like, I'm upset because Steve Yzerman gave the Red Wings confidence. He gave them the thumbs up to play in the to push for the playoffs, and they're failing. But this is also a failing of Steve Yzerman. And I hate to say that, right? Like, this is his team that's been put together. This is his head coach. And by no means am I calling for the firing of Derek Lalonde or Steve Yzerman. I believe in continuity in both of those positions for a team that's rebuilding. You can't just have it's part of the reason why Buffalo Sabres have been bad for so long. It's constantly a carousel of coaches. They need the continuity, but also Derek Lalonde in particular needs to change something, because how poorly this team is playing, even without Dylan Larkin, it falls on his shoulders. And it falls on the coaching staff's shoulders.
Well,
so something needs to change.
Right. That's a point that a lot of people and we talked about off air when you were calling me earlier is like, Dylan Larkin's good. He's really good. He's the best player on the team. I have all the respect in the world for Big Dog, right? He's the captain. He's the man.
He's not Connor
Dylan
McDavid.
Larkin is not the difference between the Detroit Red Wings having an 8-point cushion in the wild card versus losing, getting pumped by the Coyotes and the Sabres. Like, is not one player Dylan Larkin is not the difference between those two outcomes by himself. This is a complete meltdown of the entire roster these last 6 games.
Absolutely. We're going to take a break. I'm very sorry, FanDuel. I apologize, but we got to take a break. So we'll be back shortly for what I can only assume is going to be a very abbreviated segment 3. Say goodbye to busted brackets. FanDuel lets you bet on every game of the tourney. Whether you're betting on a big upset or a 1-seed, you know what big upset I'm going to be betting on every single game?
OU, baby.
Oakland University going back to the NCAA tournament, winning the Horizon League. Woo!
Right.
then that was one of two things that picked my mood up after that Red Wings loss. And maybe I'll talk about that, the other thing in segment 3. Whether you're betting on a big upset or a 1 seed, it's time to go dancing on America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on point spreads, and money lines. You can even pick who's going to win it all. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets. Segment 3, Locked On Red Wings podcast. Scotty, the final thing that we got to talk about in this game, we've got to go fast. Forecheck, absolutely none of it. Abysmal. And in this part of that passive structure that they have, I mean, it's in the defensive zone, but even in the offensive zone, we talked about it. Part of the reason is because they're exhausted. They have to dump and change every time, but they can't carry the puck cleanly into the offensive zone because they have only 2 players on the team capable of that. Well, 3, actually. I think Moritz Seider does it quite a lot too. But they have to dump the puck in and chase. But again, the lack of speed for the forecheck. And even without that, take that away. Overall, the lack of aggression by the forwards and the defenders to challenge the point men, the men along the boards on the half wall, leads to offensive creation for the other team time and time again.
And it's something that they were doing at least relatively well when they were winning. And it's really frustrating to see that just completely go out the door. And yeah, I would love to know why and where it went and how we can get it back.
Well, another thing is, are they overcorrecting? We know that they know that this is crucial, right? They know these are important games. So, my logic would dictate that you would see a desperate hockey team come out, a team giving it their all. I almost wonder sometimes, and this is just pure speculation by me, and, I play men's league hockey, so what do I really know? But I wonder if they're overcorrecting their emotions, right? They don't want to be desperate. They want to continue to play their game because they might feel that desperation leads to mistakes. They want to continue playing their hockey game so that they can, and that will eventually lead to wins. So I wonder if these slow starts against bad teams that are playing you hard is an overcorrection where they're trying to stay calm and play their game, where maybe you do need to see a little bit of desperation, right? Where is the emotion? How do you play that abysmally in the first period against both the Coyotes and the Sabres? It baffles me.
Yeah, and the that later in the game push doesn't do that, that they have done so often this year, doesn't do you any good if the game's completely out of reach by the third period, which a lot of games in this streak have been.
Yes. I think that, last thing. Fourth line is brutal. I mean, it's all brutal, but Christian Fischer needs to go back to the wing as soon as he can. I know that's out of necessity right now, and I love Christian Fischer. Yeah. He's a dog. But Christian Fischer at center with Fabry and Sprong on his wings, it's just, they're getting caved in every single time they're out there.
Not great.
And I don't mean to pick on them in particular, right? And anytime we picked on anyone in this game, I want you guys to know, it's a whole team effort. Even Wallman and Seider, right? We didn't talk about them. We didn't talk about Raymond, right? The whole team. Across the board. Just
everybody can get it. Yeah. It was not great.
So I think that does it, buddy. Hope that was a cathartic vent sesh for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. That like we started the show, man, we've tried to be, it's a long season. We're going to try to stay, toward the middle, not get too high with the highs, not get too low with the lows. And this game, I think it's good for everybody to just kind of let it all out there. We can all be, disappointed and mad for a night, and hopefully, get back on the schneid later this week.
Well, and I was the lowest of the lows, and I'm going to straight up brag now. So if you guys don't care to hear me brag about my men's league team, just go ahead.
Are you talking about your hockey game?
Oh, dude. I was going to come on here. Dude, you should have heard me in the locker room before the game. I was borderline screaming. I was so mad. And we talked on on my ride there where I was I don't know if I even want to do this episode. But then we won a quadruple overtime game. We were down 3-1, won 4-3 in quadruple overtime to knock off the 1 seed to go to the semifinals. And yours truly got the primary apple in the quadruple overtime for the winner.
And honestly, the most impressive stat,
0 shoulder dislocations.
0 shoulder dislocations, dude. That's easily the most impressive stat of the entire night. Yeah, I'm proud of you.
I made a back-to-back defensive plays to save goals in like the second or third overtime, and the ref came over to the bench. And was like, "Dude, those were some crazy plays." So my emotions tonight, the spectrum all the way across. It was crazy. I went from just like down bad to on cloud 9, and none of you guys care, nor should you care. But the fellas,
we do care. Everybody give a round of applause for Enforcer Brian, Producer Brian, to all his former. Don't do that. Never mind. Everyone, you just flexed on camera. Everybody booed. Just kidding.
So, all right.
We're proud of you.
I'm proud of the boys. It was a team effort. Everyone played well. So
wow, he's speaking like a true leader in there. It's a team effort.
So
we're proud.
We ball.
We do ball. It doesn't feel like it right now, but don't forget, we do in fact.
We'll be back with a new episode tomorrow, maybe. I don't know. We'll see how we feel. Same time, same place. It's your team every day.
Every day.